wrestling was at its peak in the mid to late 80s, at least the WWF was, with Hulkamania in particular being the driving force behind it all. There was so much merchandise it was ridiculous. Any item you could possibly think of had WWF memorabilia. There's been a long line of video games that started around this time and continues to this day. There were 4 on the NES, which are the ones I'll be talking about in this video. The first one, WWF Wrestlemania, I've already covered in a standalone review. To sum that one up, it sucked. It had unresponsive control, a lack of variety of moves, and an unnecessarily complicated pinning system, and that's just the basics. The next installment, WWF Wrestlemania Challenge, was released in 1990. The roster was expanded from 6 to 9, although one of the wrestlers is a generic character called Yourself, essentially making this the lamest creator-wrestler feature ever, although it really is the first. They could have given you multiple sprites to use, maybe some different faces at least, or at the very least allow you to choose your name. That would have personalized your character a little bit more. I mean, it's hard to feel like this is you when your name is displayed as Yourself. Might as well be called Untitled Wrestler. The ring is an isometric view this time, which gives you a lot more space to work with, including being able to actually go outside the ring, although this new perspective does make lining up your opponent for an attack a little tough to pull off at times, but the control is much smoother than its clunky predecessor. Movesets are once again limited. It's mostly punch, kick, and slam, but each wrestler does get a special move for a little bit of variety. The entrance themes are once again present and play continually in the background before alternating to the opponent, except in tag team matches where the theme will change upon tagging someone in. New features include the aforementioned tag team matches, as well as 3-on-3 Survivor Series elimination matches. You want to play this game in 2 players, as the AI of the computer opponent is ridiculous. He runs around like a cat with rabies when not attacking you. It doesn't make for a very good flow to the match, but even still, this is a marginal improvement over its predecessor. We can surely expect things to look up from here, right? Well, when 1992 came along, so did the next release, WWF Wrestlemania Steel Cage Challenge. So we just keep adding more to the titles. WWF Wrestlemania, WWF Wrestlemania Challenge, WWF Wrestlemania Steel Cage Challenge. What's next? WWF Wrestlemania Super Steel Cage No Holds Barred Challenge? No. Steel Cage Challenge eliminates the Survivor Series tag match, but adds the Steel Cage, which is to be expected considering the title of the game. The roster was bumped up from 9 to 10, but they did away with the shitty Yourself character, which is really more of a gain than a loss. But the variety is actually brought down thanks to the fact that each wrestler's moveset is exactly the same. Not even one special move for each guy. It's a downgrade in this field. Hell, even the first game had some distinct moves. Another downgrade is the control. There's a slight delay with your attacks and movements, but it seems worse than it actually is because you move so slow, which is a problem in itself. It's the same engine used on the 16-bit games Royal Rumble and Raw, which is much better suited for those consoles. This just seems like a poorly scaled back rendition of those games, and the character sprites, while animated pretty good, look like they were designed on Microsoft Paint. The cage match itself sucks too. It provides not much of anything other than a barricade preventing you from exiting the ring. And to win the match, you just have to climb to the top of the cage, where in real life the objective is to climb out and get to the floor. The worst part is that for some unknown reason, your opponent will regain all of his health once you drain it, but it never works for you. What the fuck is that all about? This time the wrestler's theme music only plays back on the character select screen. And man, these renditions suck. It sounds like they just figured out the notes and quickly threw it together without even trying to capture what the song actually sounds like. Overall, this game is a huge letdown and brings things down a level after improving the franchise last time. Which brings us to the final WWF game on the NES, King of the Ring, released in late 1993, long into the twilight days of the NES. And it shows. Like its predecessor, the game bumps up its roster by 1, from 10 wrestlers to 11. There are still no signature moves or finishers, everyone does the same shit, the wrestler's theme music is still produced lazily, and once again the character models look like they were designed with Microsoft Paint. The Steel Cage match is thankfully gone. The specialty this time around is the King of the Ring tournament mode, which is okay, but it doesn't really add anything to the gameplay since it's made up of regular one-on-one matches. Although each wrestler has the same moves, they at least have unique attributes, which is a first. They also bring back the generic character of You, who has a question mark replacing his facial features. This time around you can customize the name and edit your attributes. It's a very primitive creator-wrestler feature, but it's an improvement over the previous version, if you even want to call it one. Gameplay is a little more functional than Steel Cage, but that doesn't say much. It just doesn't play as slow and doesn't have the dumb health regeneration award for the computer. There's actually a little bit more to this game than Steel Cage, but it's just as disappointing because the games haven't progressed much at all, and actually regressed in some aspects. Plus, at this point, the 16-bit wrestling games had hit the map and were far superior. There was no need to own these games, and it shows in the results. King of the Ring really feels like they're just mailing it in. So yeah, none of the WWF games on NES were anything amazing, but they were a start. The weird thing is the pattern of the quality. It started off with an abomination, then improved to fairly decent, and then they just dropped back down to terrible and got lazy with it. There were other wrestling games on NES, including the generically titled Pro Wrestling, with arguably the most awesome poorly translated English phrase in history, "A winner is you." But although some of these games were better than others, none of them were classics and hold up particularly well today. But wrestling games were in its infancy stage, not really suited too well for the gaming platforms of the time. But they were what they were, a step towards what would become in later years. And that wraps up this edition of Aqualung's Game Reviews. See you next time.